Hi, this is Jason Kidd. You're listening to Drive Time Sports with Jordan Bescarini, KOAL, 750 AM.
The college basketball season came to an end this week. That means that we've got to be getting close to playoff basketball, right? It's got to be right around the corner. We're about 20 games away from the end of the regular season. We're going to talk college hoops. We'll talk NBA. We're going to do all that right now with our friend Tom Perkins, who is an independent NBA scout, also coming in from HoopCityNews.com. Tom, as always, a pleasure. Thank you.
It's fun being here, so I always look forward to this.
Yeah, it's always fun to have a conversation with you. And you and I were talking about the national championship off of the cuff before we hopped on the air, and Baylor came out and just smacked Gonzaga in the mouth. I know I haven't had a ton of time to talk about the national championship game. It was somewhat uneventful. I thought the tournament itself was fantastic. The Final Four, well, Baylor destroyed Houston and then destroyed Gonzaga. I mean, so all the talk that we had about how fantastic and the parity of the tournament, I don't think there's any doubt that Baylor was the best team in the country. They proved that 2 games in 3 nights, topping 2 elite opponents and doing it with relative ease.
Yeah, well, Baylor, a lot of people underestimated them. I didn't. I saw how they played defense, and I saw how strong they were. They're like football players playing against basketball players. And, usually football players are just, bulky and overweight or they're stronger. Well, obviously Baylor was stronger. But they were also quick of feet because I'll tell you what, their rotations, their helping recover was fantastic. If every team wants to just take one aspect of Baylor's game, the help and recover is what people need to watch, because that was awesome. That was just fantastic, because they didn't give them any open looks.
Now, Tom, in this game, we had a lot of NBA talent. I mean, I think there's probably 5 guys that will be selected in the upcoming draft this summer, just based off of what we've seen over the last couple of years. And, of course, all eyes were on Jalen Suggs going into this game. Suggs had the heroic bank shot to lift Gonzaga past UCLA. It looked like we were heading into double overtime. And that lifts Gonzaga to the national championship game. And Jalen Suggs, a kid standing 6'4", 205, had the opportunity to go to the G League, and he elected not to. And that seemed to be a rather popular option. I mean, if we could talk Jalen Green and Jonathan Kamunga, and there's a list of guys that decided to go that route. Jalen Suggs did not. And so with you being an NBA scout, is there, I guess, a light at the end of the tunnel for the NCAA saying, look, you can still improve your draft stock, and that's what Jalen Suggs did? I mean, I know that there was talk that the G League may actually pull from the college game, but I think Suggs is kind of an exception to that, and he says, hey, look, the college game is still here.
Yeah. Well, again, a lot of times when kids come from, let's say, mid-sized homes, homes that where people are not, let's say, in the inner city, they like the college atmosphere. They want to stay there, especially when you've had some success. So the bottom line is, when you get a kid that's had some success in college, he likes that college atmosphere.
Yeah, maybe so, but here's Suggs is a freshman, so this is a kid that's coming out of high school going into the college game, and he had the route of the G League, and he elected to go to college. I mean, is this something that scouts will pay attention to? Do they want kids to go to the G League?
Well, yeah. Well, they'd rather have them go to the G League than European ball, because in the European ball, they might just stay over there, because that's also a nice environment. But, obviously the G League is connected to the NBA, and NBA scouts would rather have a young kid go to the G League than overseas. But there's nothing wrong with still attending college for a year or so.
So G League or college, what do scouts prefer? College here in the country or the G League? What seems more appetizing for an NBA scout?
I would say college, because of the fact that there's more regimentation, which kids need at that time. In G League, there's less regimentation. So I would say college. Okay,
makes sense. Well, let's transition over to the NBA. As I mentioned, we're around that 20-game mark remaining in the regular season, and so things are starting to get real. I know the Western Conference right now, it's look, the Jazz are still the number 1 seed, but until we figure out if AD and LeBron are going to be healthy, no one in my mind is beating this Laker team. They get a little stronger this week by adding Ben McLemore. The buyout market was very kind to LA. They stayed pat at the trade deadline. They didn't move anyone. They managed to get Drummond. They managed to get McLemore for nothing. They didn't have to give up anything to get these guys. And I think, Tom, going into the deadline, you would look at a healthy Laker team and say, okay, they need some rim protection to help AD. He doesn't want to play the 5. He wants to play the 4, so you go out and you get Drummond. You needed a wing, and the Lakers didn't trade for a wing. Instead, they get McLemore, and this is a guy that can shoot. In fact, you look at this team, to me, I would take him over Wes Matthews right now. So it seems that the Lakers have an improvement all the way around without giving up anything.
Yeah, well, picking up Drummond was awesome. I mean, that's the big deal right there, because he really does give them rim protection better than what they had last year in Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee. So, yeah, this is a major plus for the Lakers. But again, it all depends on how well AD and LeBron come back. I mean, are they going to be 85%? Are they going to be 80%? So it depends on how well they come back. And, as we spoke before, I still think if the Nets, if they're healthy, I'm not sure that the Lakers can beat that Net team. Not if the Nets are healthy, because they've got the 3 guys that are proven. I mean, you don't have to kind of think about it. They're just proven. KD and Kyrie Irving and James Harden. And then everybody's forgetting about Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. Now, they're not going to come in and play all-star basketball for 35 minutes. No way. But I think they can give them all-star minutes. That's what you have to look for from Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. And I think they're willing to give up and sacrifice some of their game to give that team all-star minutes.
Yeah, Tom, I'm a statistic guy. I like analytics, but I believe there's a fine line, and there's something that there will never be a metric or a measurement for, and that's the championship all-star mentality, right? And the elite mentality, because there's no question that the Brooklyn Nets have a group of all-star talent that is proven in some regard, but I'll tell you one aspect that they're not proven in. Okay, when I look at the Los Angeles Lakers, they have LeBron James. The Brooklyn Nets do not have anyone that has that mentality or that experience of LeBron. And coming from someone who scouts this out, I mean, look, you have to at least acknowledge the fact that when it comes crunch time, and you have a guy like LeBron who has won 4 championships, his 4 championships are different than Kevin Durant's. His 4 championships are different than Kyrie's, because LeBron was the focal point on that championship team with Kyrie. It's just different, and I don't know if Brooklyn has that. That's what it's so hard to pinpoint, but that's what I don't know if they have. I don't trust James Harden in the playoffs. Track records do the math. He has vanished in the postseason over the last couple of years. Yeah, he hasn't played with Kevin Durant. I understand that. Kevin Durant's one of the most unique scorers. But KD had to join an already loaded Golden State team in order to become, quote, a champion. I just don't know if they have that attitude yet. I don't know.
Well, they may not have that attitude collectively, but I can tell you this, Kevin Durant definitely has that attitude, and he definitely is a winner, and he will hit those clutch shots, and he's proven that. Same thing with Kyrie Irving. Matter of fact, Kyrie Irving would rather take the shot than let KD take that shot. So I don't know. I think that there's enough of that there with the Nets, talking about that championship mentality, that they could go ahead and be successful in a playoff series. So, again, to me, it all comes down to health. I mean, Golden State, if they were healthy last year, I think that Golden State would have won it again.
No, 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. Not last year. 2 years ago against Toronto.
Yeah, 2 years ago, exactly, with Klay Thompson and Kevin being out. It'll all be washed out when it gets down to the playoffs, But it should be interesting, because it'll be a great matchup, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when I look at the East, I'm not going to discredit Milwaukee and I'm not going to discredit Philadelphia because I believe the 76ers have an excellent chance of coming out of the Eastern Conference. And I know that you're very high on Brooklyn. I know a lot of people that are, but I am still very high on this Philadelphia team. They present a lot of unique challenges. And again, I think you can tie health to it. If Joel Embiid is healthy, it's a very difficult team to beat. And I'm sure that we could agree here, right? In the Eastern Conference, there's Brooklyn, there's Philly, and there's everyone else. Is that kind of the conclusion that you have come to over the last couple of weeks?
Well, yeah, there's, obviously there's Brooklyn 76ers, and there's Milwaukee. Milwaukee, that's a very interesting team because when they kind of get it going and they're starting to be in a flow, they are really tough to beat. So I'd say those three teams. So it's, those three teams and everybody else. There's no Celtics this time. There's none of these other things, or the Heat have fallen on hard times. So what I'm saying, I see those three teams being very formidable, and Milwaukee is a real rhythm team when they get on a roll, and Antetokounmpo is really wheeling and dealing and shooting that outside shot. They're tough to beat, but again, I think it's easier to defend Milwaukee than it is some of these other teams because all you have to do is build that wall and stop Antetokounmpo at the three-quarter mark of a court. And when you stop them there, you don't let them get into that flow.
All right, Tom, let's move over to the West, and this is what I want to end with. We're going to assume that the Lakers are healthy for this particular conversation. This is all assuming that LeBron James and Anthony Davis come back. Everyone is healthy on this team. I'm going to throw a Western Conference team out, and you tell me if they can realistically beat the Lakers in a 7-game series. Sound good?
Okay.
The Utah Jazz.
They can beat them because they have a mentality of having been pretty much the leader in the league the whole year. They can beat them, and they have enough pieces to beat them. Will they? Probably not.
Phoenix.
Absolutely not, because that team doesn't have quite enough. So they no way.
Good story, not enough.
Right.
Okay. Denver.
They could beat the Lakers. They've got pieces that actually outdo the pieces of the Jazz, outdo the pieces of Phoenix. They've got enough pieces that they could possibly beat the Lakers. Betting, I hate that word, but the thought here is, I don't think they have quite enough, but they probably come the closest of those teams to being able to beat the Lakers.
Okay, and then lastly, the Clippers.
I don't think so, no. Clippers are, they've got some nice pieces, and they got the playoff Rondo now, which is very interesting because he knows every single thing that the Lakers do, but at the same time, I don't think they have enough, and then Paul George is off and on, so I don't think so. And so, no, I just think the Denver Nuggets is the closest team that could do it to the Lakers in the West.
Tom Perkins, again, our guest of HoopCityNews.com. Tom, it's always a pleasure to get you on the show to talk NBA basketball. Fun conversation today, a little bit different than the direction we typically go. But before I let you go, of course, we got to give you an opportunity, to let the listeners know where they can find more of your work.
Well, I have my website, HoopCityNews.com, and I've written all about the draft. I've written all about the free agency, so you can see all that. And in the next couple of weeks, I'll be more specific about who's high on the draft and who's going where and things of that nature. And, of course, leading up right up to the draft. But this draft class is pretty interesting, so we'll have to see how that goes. But you're free to come in. It's free. You don't have to pay anything to read my articles. Just come to HoopCityNews.com and get everything you want there, salaries, the whole nine.
Hey, Tom, always a pleasure to get you on. I look forward to more conversations in the near future. Thank you again.
My pleasure, as always, Jordan. Talk to you soon.